Well, James, we have had some luck. As you can see, we have the whole Styx Pride, there we go, not the Styx Pride, that are sitting on the road, which has made it very easy for us. It was not very difficult to find them at all. As soon as there was a few tracks, and then, well, there's a whole bunch of lions sitting in the road. It makes life very easy indeed. And it looks like the little cubs are here, as well as the big cubs and all three females. So the entire pride is together, which is wonderful to see. I don't think we've seen the little cubs with the rest of the pride for quite some time. So that female that was running around yesterday, where James was, has obviously managed to find the cubs she was looking for. Now, in terms of how many cubs are here, not 100% sure yet. We've only just kind of found them. We literally just drove down the road and there they were. So still need to kind of work out exactly who is who and how many we've got. But it looks like the entire pride is here. So we're going to just get ourselves a little bit closer. Now, I believe a lot of you are very excited and very happy that we found these Styx and are saying yay, and I'm very excited about all of this, which it is exciting. It's always nice to have the lions around, and particularly, the Styx Pride. We haven't had them that much over the last little bits, and so it's always nice. I'm going to stop a little further away. I don't want them to get up off the road, so we're just going to stop in this direction. And I wanted to come forward a little bit just to see if there wasn't a sneaky Birmingham lying with them, because often there's a Birmingham accompanying these prides, but it seems as though not today. It seems as though just the three females and then all of the cubbies are here. I can see in terms of the small ones, I can see pretty much looks like all four of them. So there's one that's sort of off to the left, and then there's one that's suckling, one on the sort of left of the one suckling, and then one right in front. So all four little ones are safe and well, and the fact that they reunited with their mother is great news. So for all of you that were worried about the little cubs when they were left by themselves for those 2-3 days, you can see that they're just fine. So they've managed to kind of find mom. They can suckle now and everything is all good. But how beautiful is that? Is that not one of the best ways to start a cat today, as you drive down the road and there's just all these tawny lumps in the road and they all kind of taking it very easy, and at least their heads are up and they're kind of looking around. There's a bit of grooming going on, and so hopefully we'll see them actually maybe doing a bit of walking too. But such a nice way to start the day. Well, I think so anyway. It's certainly a very easy way to start. James and I have been spoilt this morning in that we've both bumped into big cats without too much effort, which is a wonderful way, like I say, to start a day. Now, I would imagine with these Styx, they haven't moved that far. This from where James picked up those tracks to here is really not very far as the crow flies at all. So I don't think they've done too much during the night. You can see that they've actually been lying to my right for quite a long time. And so I would imagine that they might still be fairly hungry. None of them look like they've got full bellies, and so maybe we'll see them getting up and walking. Now, Donna, you're wondering why lions like to lie in the road so much. Well, probably for one, it's probably quite cool in comparison to everywhere else. It's also dry, so it's not going to have the moisture that is on the grass in terms of overnight. Grass often will get moisture on it and becomes very, very wet and is a little uncomfortable to lie in. They'll get damp and their fur gets wet. Also, lying in grass often has things like ticks and parasites and burrs and seeds stuck to everything, and so it's better to be able to lie on the sand where you're not going to get all of that stuff, and that's why they like it. It's also because they use these pathways or these roads as pathways to negotiate. It's much easier for them other than having to try and sort of trip over branches and go through long grass. Much easier just to sit on the road or walk on the road, and then when you want to sleep, just lie down in that area. So that's why they love it. But look at that. How cool is that? Isn't that pretty? So, Laura, you're wondering if lying in sandy areas like this and dust bathing would help with the mange? Interesting concept. I'm not 100% sure. I actually have no idea if it does. I don't know if anybody's ever studied using dust to kind of keep mange away. I would imagine that probably not, given that mange does affect animals even in other parts of the world. In the desert areas, there's lions that do sometimes get mange, or any animal really, and so there is very little of vegetation. It's mostly dust. So I'm not 100% sure if that would work, but it's an interesting concept. Maybe it is part of it. Maybe it helps with the itching, and lying on sort of coarse sand helps with itching and all of that kind of thing as well. So interesting to think about, and I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. But you can see the little cubs, they are a little thin. I mean, they will be, given that they were left on their own for a while, but they've had a good feed. Most of them have nice big full tummies, which means that they'll bounce back quite quickly and will soon look nice and full and fluffy again. The thing is the cubs of that age often do start looking a little bit kind of ropey. It's that awkward phase where they go from being these cute little fluffy balls of fur until they get a little bit bigger and the legs get a bit long for them, and they kind of just look a bit strange, and their heads also appear a little large for their bodies, and then they kind of grow into it, and then they start looking like the ones closest to us, which is a little bit more like an adult lion. But either way, very cute little things. Raquel, you're wondering if lionesses groom each other as a sort of bonding process, or is it just for cleanliness? Well, no, it's twofold. So one, obviously, it does help clean and make sure that they get rid of a lot of stuff that maybe they couldn't reach single individuals, so they can groom each other's back of the ears and those kind of places and keep themselves in the best possible condition that they can be. But a lot of it is bonding. So when they sit and groom each other as lionesses, that is to bond and to try and make sure that they are... Oh, here comes a big yawn. Good morning. And so it is to try and kind of keep that strong, infinite family tie to one another, and it's particularly because when they've got very full bellies, these sub-adults. The sub-adults look very good. They've got massive bellies. Look at that, much fuller than the last time we saw them. So they obviously managed to find some sort of food item, which is fantastic news. So nice to see that there is a little round belly there. And like I say, it's the females, you know, they hunt or they go to cubs and they separate. They need to be very strongly bonded in order to be able to keep themselves kind of tightly find one another later. Right, well, we'll stick with the Pride for a while. I'm pretty sure we'll spend most of our morning with them and see what these little cubs get up to. But while we do that, let's go across to James, who I believe has got something loud chattering away in the tree. I fear that would not end well, and well, at least the lions are as stationary could be, which means that I don't have to worry about hitting a stump and falling out of a car, so we're all okay. Don't need to worry, Brenty, but thanks for your concern. I'm pretty sure that my falling out of a car was only just to try and ease the pain of you falling out of a massive torchwood tree. Right, but back to our little lions. They're having a nice rest. I can hear some hyenas calling in the distance, which is quite late in the morning for them calling, and I wonder if that's going to spark these guys waking up a little bit. You can see, there we go, they're all lifting their heads. Now the hyenas are very faint in the distance, and it sounds like 2 or 3 of them calling, and that's why most of the lions have all kind of just lifted just to hear what's going on. They'll flop back down again fairly short. You can see the lionesses are really completely unperturbed by the fact that there are hyenas calling. They're not really too worried at all. It's just the cubs that got a little kind of nervous about it. Patrick, you're wondering why lions have the tendency to get up after a yawn. Well, Patrick, it's not just lions. Leopards do it too, and so do cheetah. All 3 of them, and it's just a process that they go through to start kind of waking up again. So big yawns is getting a lot of oxygen into the blood. It's circulating that bloodstream and making sure that, you know, they're kind of getting enough into the lungs to prepare themselves for starting to walk. It's also like us. If you wake up and you stand up, you start to yawn a little bit as you wake up, and then they kind of go from there. It's just that we normally get up and then we start yawning. With cats, they only yawn. That signifies that they are starting to get mobile and starting to move. So it is a common trait throughout the cats. Even the dogs, actually, if you look at the wild dogs, they will do the same thing. They start yawning and then it's up and moving around. So it's a trait from all of them. But look at how sweet that little face is that's sleeping there. Isn't that cute? Oh, shame. Did Mom wake you up? But it's been a long day. I've got a full tummy. Sure how I'm going to deal with all of this. This is very cute. Now, you're going to find a situation where these lions will spend the vast majority of their day in this particular section, given that they've got quite bellies. The problem is that being on a road is not the best place for shade. So while it's nice now in the cool mornings to have nice kind of cold road that's not damp and wet like the grass is, as that sun gets higher, it's going to make sure that they're going to be driven into a deeper thicket and shade at some point by this afternoon. And I can tell you already that sun has got a bite to it. It's going to be a warm day, that's for sure. Now you can see that most of the lions are full except the adults. Again, Jared, our network wizard, is sorting things out, and so hopefully that's the last of the gremlin attacks for today. Now, First Lady, I don't know if you heard your question being answered, but we'll repeat it anyway, just in case. You're wondering if lions smell. So lions, no, they don't smell, unless they've been feeding off very, very sort of stinky carcasses. So if they've been delving deep into rotten buffalo or hippos or things like that, then yes, they can smell quite pungent, and they can be really not very pleasant to be around. But normally, they're very clean animals, and they like to look after themselves, so they like to groom themselves and make sure that their coats are in good condition, like this female is doing right now. You see she's grooming around where that wound is, just to keep it nice and clean and make sure that she's in as good condition as possible. And that means then that they actually don't smell much at all. Oh, hello, little one. Are you coming to say hello as well? That's very cute. I don't know if you can hear it, but there's a few little growls going on. I think Mom's getting a little upset with the little ones trying to come and suckle. She's going to move a bit because she's in the sun where she was, and so she's going to march off. And you can see she's the one that's suckling. Look at the teats that are hanging down. And so as she moves, look, all the little cubs up and walking because they want to go and get some breakfast. So even though they've got full bellies already, all of them will waddle through the sea of lions that is the Styx Pride, and then Mom lies down. They can see that Mom is not lying down in a way that will allow suckling, and so everybody is back to lying down and sleeping. So very, very cute though to watch these little guys following around their mother. And look at that, like I say, it's just a carpet of lions now on the road, which is very cool to see. Right, well, we're going to sit here and enjoy the cuteness overload that we have with these beautiful little lion cubs. So now somebody else has something that might rival the cuteness of these cubs, and that is Ralph. Well, cuteness overload is starting to wane in the fact that we can't even see our cutest little ones because they are somewhere in that whole mess that is a pride of lions. They are all kind of tucked up inside there. I suppose it is cute just to see them all kind of curled up together. Now, interestingly enough, while we've been sitting here, we heard some lions calling quite far in the distance. It sounded like to our south, and the females popped their heads up, and you can see they're kind of sniffing the small little breeze that's blowing. There's not much of a breeze this morning. It's very still, but you can see the noses are up. You see they're just having a little sniff, and so I don't know if maybe the disturbing of those lions calling, they are very far away, those other lions. It sounds like somewhere in Mala Mala, somewhere down that area. But maybe that's just prompted them just to kind of be aware of their surroundings. Also, we heard a squirrel alarm calling close by, and so you know, maybe there's something else that is around that they have picked up as well. Now, Pride Cat Mama, you're wondering what is the biggest threat to a lioness? Well, I suppose the biggest threat to them would be humans and their sort of antics that we get up to, and the fact that we destroy habitat and we can't coexist with anything really because, well, we have all kinds of issues with wildlife and things like that. So humans are probably the biggest problem that we have for lions, but in the wild, let's say if we remove the human factor, probably their biggest issue would be new male lions to an area. So if they're male lions that have produced the cubs with them, if they happen to unfortunately get ousted, and then hyenas. So there's a number of lionesses that have had issues with hyenas. We know that in the Solala Pride, there was 2 different females that lost their tails to hyenas. So I would say male lions and hyenas, but other than that, very little. They don't really have to worry too much about leopards. Leopards are sort of much smaller and really will try and avoid lions at all costs if they can. Although there are the odd leopards that are a bit crazy and will go after little lion cubs, and so, you know, I suppose that's a threat to their offspring, but not to an adult lioness. An adult lioness really doesn't have too much to worry about other than a big male lion or a clan of hyenas should, oh, bless you, girl, should they kind of corner her and be able to get to her by herself. So those are really the only stresses that a lioness has got, unfortunately. Well, fortunately, I suppose. It makes it much easier to survive if that's all you've got to really deal with out here. Right. Well, the pride is sleepy. They are not really up to very much at all. So I think what we'll do is we'll sit a little longer. We'll just see. The sun is going to come up over there and reduce their shade, and maybe that will drive them to walk. So while we sit, let's go back across to Ralph and those cute little hyena cubs. Well, James, I wish you luck with the rover, and hopefully you get Ronald to work. Ronald was working fine yesterday afternoon, so I don't want to be blamed for its failings this morning. But our lions are slowly but surely being sort of punished by the rising sun. You can see they are huddled together in the last little bit of shade on the road, and I think soon we're going to see a situation where the lions are going to start moving and trying to find a better place to lie, because slowly but surely each of the outlying individuals are being hit by sunshine, and it's getting hot, and they kind of stand up and then they try and figure a way to find somewhere a little more shady. And if you can't find a way, then you just go and lie on somebody else until they move, until they kind of get out of the way. So it's a bit of a bun fight for the smallest piece of shade that we have. And it's funny because there's so much shade everywhere that they could find, but it's very cool to see. Yeah, I know oh, there's an impala in the distance. You see that, Wildy? Just walking in the distance there is an impala. It's just went out of frame over there. Now, I'll get to your question now, but the sticks don't seem as though they're too interested. But that impala is walking straight this way. Donna. Sorry, Donna. You're wondering, is it usual for a pride of lions to have so many cubs all at the same time? Well, yes, it is very usual, because basically what's happened with this pride is that, you must remember, first the Birminghams came in and they killed all the cubs, which would have meant that all three females would have come into an estrus cycle fairly quickly, one after another, and so the Birminghams would have mated. They then all had cubs, which the mange affected, and the mange then killed all those cubs again in a very quick process, and so you had a situation where every single female lost cubs very fast. And that meant that, again, the females all started to come into an estrus cycle very quickly, and therefore you had a situation where they all bred right after each other, and that's why so many cubs were born in such a small space of time. If you get a system where you've got a lot of, well, you've got a male that stays for a very long period of time, so let's say the Birminghams now dominate for another 3 years, then you'll start to see the females kind of coming into estrus at slightly different times. But, at the moment, it's a situation where, because the Birminghams came in and killed all the cubs, and because of the sort of mange situation, the females all came into estrus very quickly after each other, and so the Birminghams took full advantage of that and mated as quick as possible. Right, now while we sit here with these cute little lion cubs and see whether those impalas do approach from the south, let's go back across to James.